Hey everyone, we're back to be reunited with the Q&A episodes where we get to answer some amazing questions from you very amazing gurus. Hey everyone, I hope you're well, playing and or making the games that you all love. You're joining me, your host, Max Pears, but not just me. We're joined by one of our legendary own, the man, the myth. I've said that for too many people, but still a myth in his own right. Mark, how you doing, mate?
I'm very well, thank you, Max. Yourself?
All good, my man, all good. Great to finally have you actually on the show. And for those who don't know, Mark has been a very key pillar with helping with the Discord and being someone who you can always turn to and answer questions if you ever do have any. So we really appreciate, well, I really appreciate everything that you do, and I know everyone does as well, mate.
No, that's no problem.
So for those who don't know you though, mate, can you give a little introduction about you and how you get involved in video games?
Yeah, so my name's Mark Gregory. I've been involved with games now for 10 years. I did 4 years as a freelance journalist, and then for the last 6 years I've been developing numerous indie games whilst working a full-time job. I work during the day I work for the NHS doing IT, and then at night time I turn into a superhero game developer.
Do you have a cape and everything?
I do. It's the only way I can get through it sometimes. Yeah.
I'd love to see the cape now.
So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Really, every game that I've worked on, I've done design and level design at some aspect, and I do a lot of narrative stuff as well.
And you've got quite a few projects going on at the minute as well, don't you, mate? You're a man, like sort of many talents with it.
Yeah. So my studio, Free Sphere Entertainment, we've undertaken a couple of VR contracts in the past, and we've done a number of prototypes over the years. Some have worked out, some haven't. And at the moment, we're concepting something new. At the moment, that we're hoping to have some stuff soon to show.
Fantastic, mate. That's great to hear. And Mark was kind enough to offer his help and services to do a Q&A alongside me, because we've stopped recently just for a little bit and taken a bit of a break. That's just because of my schedule. But now we get a chance to sit down and do this. So I really do, again, appreciate you getting this back and up and running, mate.
Yeah, no problems.
Okay, then, we're going to jump straight into this one then. For those who don't know, we're taking questions from the gurus from our Patreon. So these messages were sent in before to us on our Discord. So we're going to take it from them. So, my friend, do you want to ask the questions and then we'll start answering them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. So,
no worries, man.
What are your top 5 games and what are your top 5 levels in games from Dragonfan?
Oh, I hate doing this with the top 5. Because there's so many amazing games and things change. Okay, top 5. Let's just go with it then. This is not in any particular order. These are just the 5 that I really do like. The first one I'll go with is Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. I love that game so very, very much. And I think the character of Zack Fair is just an absolute hero, someone to live by, an extremely emotional game. I think one of its mechanics, the DMW, I believe it's called, is a very powerful mechanic in terms of how you gain out emotion. Another favourite game of mine has to be Metal Gear Solid, the first one, because that's what got me into video games in general. And I really did enjoy the stealth to it, and as I say, it's the very first one that got me into video games itself. I'm going to then say, this is some really tough ones to do. Let's go then with, I'll probably go with, after this, I'm going to say Zelda Breath of the Wild. Just, I was blown away by that game so much. I think after completing it, I was like, what do I do next with my life? There's so many good things about that one, and so that's 3 of them. Say again, sorry, mate.
How do you compete with that?
Oh yeah, it's been a long time when I've played a game and just felt like a kid again. Just that terms of excitement and joy for it. What else do we have? The thing is you just also try and forget sometimes, and I think that's the worst bit. I also think Ico is a fantastic game. It's definitely rough around the edges, but there's a lot that has done which I don't think anything has caught up to in many regards to emotional design for that one. That puts me at 4. And wow, why is this really hard to figure out? It's just really hard with it. Let's go. I'm going to regret and change my mind, at some point anyway, so I'll just be mad at myself later because it's now on the record verbally. I think for the last one, I'm going to have to go with... do you know what? I'm going to go with Kingdom Hearts 2. I think that was a phenomenal game in its own right. So that's my top 5. What about you, mate?
Right. Dishonored 2, A Crack in the Slab.
Mm-hmm.
Silent Hill 2 and the
great choice there.
And the Hotel, I'd say. The Resident Evil 2 remake and the whole of the police station, just because for a lock and key design philosophy with some Metroidvania style stuff, design philosophies thrown in there. It's just it just feels like such a real space in the way that everything just interconnects, and it's perfection in my eyes. Probably Prey and Talos 1 again as a place that just feels lived in, like how Arcane do it. I don't know how they keep doing it with level design, but they really seem to knock it out of the park every time.
Yeah.
And then probably the original Deus Ex.
Oh, okay, that's going back.
Yeah. No particular level, really, just the entire experience from start to finish.
Yeah. I'd say then, because you just did your levels and I did games, so I'll do levels now and you do your top 5 games, so we'll switch it up. I'll say for levels, one of my favourite levels has to be in Last of Us Left Behind. There's a section where you play as Ellie trying to switch on a generator in an underground car park, and how basically they reuse this space 3 times. Like the first point, it's filled with water, and then you can't cross it, so then you have to turn off the generator. But as soon as you do that, you then have clickers, so you've now got to make your way past them. And at the very beginning as well, you've got to try to figure out how to get across the area. So it's using the same space but in 3 different ways, which just blew my mind, and that was really one of my favourite levels, and it's stuck with me for a long time.
It gets quite systemic at some points in that level, doesn't it? Where you can make the clickers interact with the humans, and then they fight each other, and you can slip on by, can't you?
Exactly, mate. There's so much just there that I think is really well. The Last of Us, I think, just as a whole, is very good, but I think The Left Behind is a much overall tighter experience with because they've learnt from it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Perfecting techniques, aren't they, there? So
exactly. I'd then go with a Deus Ex, but I'll go with Human Revolution. Sorry.
Oh wow.
Yeah. No, actually, I'll go Mankind Divided with Gollum City, because the amount of options. Because you've got the very first bit where you have to rescue a prisoner, and that's a side objective. But there's so many ways for you to do it that I think there's just the impact of choice, I think, is a huge thing for that. I mean, similar reasons, you mentioned Arcane as well. They have some fantastic levels with that. The latest God of War, I couldn't even pick one, honestly. That game is just a masterclass in level design. I'm so amazed by that every time I go back to it. I think that one's 4, and then level. I'd go Titanfall 2. And the one where it's not the time warp one, which everyone mentions. It's the one. It's going to be the one where you're in the construction plant, and where the actual platforms move with you into the final boss, where they're actually building an arena around you. I thought that was an incredible level. So those are mine personally.
Oh, right, okay. I found that level really frustrating personally.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I kept dying because of the moving, because everything was moving. My concentration skills weren't at the best with it. So.
It is an interesting one. Did you ever play Ninja Theory's DMC? Because they have a lot of moving platforms.
Yeah, I did. And I put that down pretty quick as well. So it seems like moving platforms and me don't mix.
Mortal enemies. Well, then what would be your top 5 games then, mate?
Silent Hill 2.
That is a great choice. I think that one. It's a shame that some people will never get a chance to play that.
There's always emulators.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But that was, so... I still remember the opening for that game. I still remember that. Such a strong one.
Yeah, so it's one of those games that just sticks with you, that as being as into horror as I am, and every game that I've worked on has been horror essentially, and had horror undertones to it. It's just... Even now, it's probably still the best horror game of all time, probably. So, Resident Evil Remake, the first one.
Okay, right. Yeah.
In Spencer Mansion. System Shock 2.
Okay.
The Last of Us, and probably God of War, because I talk about it so much. So.
Yeah, no, God of War was a fantastic game. I imagine once you have your child, replaying that game is going to have a whole new meaning for you as well.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely, yeah. It already has a special place anyway. But I think that'll. I think once our child gets here and she's. And I start teaching her life skills and stuff, then a lot of lessons from that game will come barreling through. Not that I'm some God killing God, even though I think of myself as one at times. But
when you put that cape on, mate, anything is possible.
It is. So, yeah.
No, some good choices there, mate. I think it's always tough to narrow it down because there's so many great things out there. And then I'm sure after this episode ends, me and you are going to remember a game or a level and be like, damn it, why didn't I say that one?
Absolutely.
All right, then we'll move on to the next question, mate.
How did you both get your starts in the industry and level design specifically?
Okay, this one comes from Charles as well for us. So for me, I got into the industry. I obviously loved games, and I'd worked on stuff while at school. My first game I made when I was 15. It wasn't anything spectacular. It was in Flash, where you move a ship from left to right as meteors fell down, and that was all to it. And I went to study university, Teesside University, and I still didn't know if I wanted to be game or level design. I just knew I wanted to be involved in design, but I didn't know what the difference with the roles were. I then went and was fortunate enough to get a year placement in industry, because I was making levels in Unreal, but also there was mobile level editors that I had available to me so that I could make stuff there. And I met a company called Fog Media who was giving a talk one day at my school. I got speaking to them, and then I broke into the industry through mobile, and through there I eventually learned the difference between game and level design, and just started to tailor my portfolio and started to meet people at conferences, and met quite a lot of people actually at Ubisoft Reflections. And that's when I got fully committed into level design there, and that's how it went for me. What about you, mate?
no formal education in games. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, I realised that I wanted to work in games or try and do something within the games community. So I started writing about games and worked with a few websites for a number of years to build up knowledge more than anything, because I'd only ever really played games. I hadn't really studied engines or technology. So I thought, before I jump into this, I need to have some sort of idea of what it is I'm jumping into. So I started writing about games, interviewing developers, going to conventions, sitting down with devs, talking, learning, listening and understanding. And then I started tweaking with Gears of War, the mod kits that came with that came with the original Gears. That led me to applying at Pulse Tense Games in Turkey. They were looking for a remote level designer to work to help finish Solarix. And which was an immersive sim, which was, for my first project, was a real big thing.
Real undertaking.
We got it done. We got it out the door. It was rough, but it's done. It's out there, and I'm still incredibly proud of it because of the story that we tried to tell with the mechanics and the systems that we had in place. And I still stand by that game today. So that's my story.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I think there's so many routes into the industry as well that it doesn't have to be just education. I think the main thing is, as long as you're working on your portfolio, there's so much that you can do out there. So yeah, that's, I think, the most important thing. Just keep working on it all is what I recommend to people.
Yeah, there's a lot of talking in the education scene at the moment about what's more important, a formal education in games or a portfolio, which is a really interesting topic, especially if you speak to people in education, because they'll always say education, but then when you speak to recruiters, they say a banging portfolio. So
yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, because I sometimes wonder, especially with student loans in the UK, and I imagine it's extremely worse in regards to the US. Sometimes I do wonder if it was worth going through a formal education system, because hopefully your school should allow you to get a portfolio along with their course, because they shouldn't just be teaching you theory. They should be making sure that you build stuff. But I think the great thing is now, and for example, the GameDev.tv, who we did an episode with, episode 49, they've got great courses out there. There's others out there. I think as long as you're making stuff, that's the most important, but also getting feedback on that stuff. I also think portfolio design is not a topic that's taught enough, whether that be in education or online courses or anything. Because not many people mention how to make a good portfolio. I feel like you only learn that after making a portfolio for a couple of years. Do you go, oh, okay, this is how it should look. This is how to present my work,
I think that's what we do well with the Discord as well, in fairness. Not to pat ourselves on the back too much, but our community Discord is quite an active place, and if you do ask for feedback on levels or on your portfolio, you generally tend to get honest, usable feedback from people.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. I mean, generally, I think our Discord's filled with just great people and very passionate people, and I think that's the thing that makes me proud. We don't have it's not a toxic area, and you can tell everyone's here to learn, regardless of level, and I think that's always great to see.
Agreed.
But now that we've pat ourselves on the back a little bit, we'll move on to the next question. And this one comes from, geez Louise, I hope I say this name correctly, Alcanet E. I've definitely not pronounced that one correct, and I do apologise. But he asked, what's the best way to balance level art and design requirements? How can art and design teams set a base to work together? How do you feel with this one, mate?
God, it's such a big topic. Max will talk probably from a AAA perspective, and I'll talk from a an independent perspective with no budget, so there'll be vastly different views on this. But generally, I will block a level out. Because usually I'll be doing the design work and I'll be doing the level design stuff as well, so I'll have an idea of how I want things to flow and what mechanics I have. So usually it's quite a linear pipeline for us at our studio. I'll build a level, I'll document it, I'll build it out with test start and blocking out kits like Supergrid, etc. There are other block-out kits available in UE4, and then I'll pass it off to our art team, and they'll work their magic with it essentially. So it's quite a linear pipeline for us. Really, it's quite simple. I can imagine it's quite a bigger process in AAA.
Yeah, but I think the fundamentals are still very much the same. I mean, it depends on studios. You know, I've spoken to people that work at Rockstar, and they actually won't do the block-out phase first. The artist will just go and do it, and then level design kind of have to just go on top and make changes where they feel it's necessary, which is an interesting one. But how I've done it is we do it very similar. We will get like the specifications of a location, and then we'll start to block it out, obviously making sure you have your research folder with all the images, so that way when the artists come, you can walk through with them and then show them your references. And this is the bit that slightly differs. Like some places you will put, like you said, some basic art over it to sell the space, such as if this is a bedroom, is this a bathroom. But other times we might just use, in Division, we just use blocks. We'd have them certain sizes, and then the artist would try match that size with an asset. But it takes a lot of iteration, and I think the biggest thing to walk away from is, you know, everyone's trying to make a great game, so don't just hoard over it and be like, no, this is mine, this is the best idea. I always try to do it where if there's a part of my space which isn't necessarily needed for gameplay, then I tell the artist, you know, you have free reign here, kind of make, you know, this is kind of how I envisioned it, but if you want to change it, feel free, because it doesn't danger anything in terms of gameplay. But if I have a more gameplay specific area, then I'm a little bit stricter. We still can make changes, obviously, but that one I just kind of specify a bit more. This is kind of, it's important that the gameplay works like X, Y, and Z, and then we'll talk about it. But I think iteration is the biggest thing, where you just have to keep communicating and iterating together.
Yeah, absolutely. Communication's key. So we use Noted Pro, which is a fantastic blueprint that the Discord actually turned me on to.
Oh, really?
And within that, you can put hyperlinks. So in there, I'll embed links to YouTube videos with timestamps on them for our art team to check out what I was thinking for an area. So, for example, if it was a bathroom, like I like this type of bathroom, for example, you know, and I'll bang a Noted Pro blueprint in there that they can click on it, and then they get to see a working example of what it is that we're looking for. Detailed notes on our perforce are a big thing as well. Everybody at the studio is pretty good with that. Nobody really scrimps on the notes because we're a remote team, so everybody buys into the fact that we need to work as tightly together as possible and give each other as much information as possible, because we don't have the convenience of just getting up and walking over to a desk and speaking to a colleague, you know.
Yeah, I think that must be an interesting challenge within itself, working remotely.
Oh, definitely. Things like Trello keep us organised, and we have weekly and sometimes even twice a week we'll get together on Discord or on Skype or something and chat through problems if we have issues with stuff that's cropped up during the week. So
yeah, no, I think it's always good to communicate, like you're saying, and the most important thing is don't be afraid to adapt your ideas, because just because they're an artist doesn't mean, for example, that they don't have great ideas that help make the level better. You know, it's
absolutely, yeah.
with it. So yeah, I think those are the best ones that we have for you there, mate. So yeah, communicate, and also try specify, and doing your research will help make sure that you guys are on the same page, like you said, Mark, mate, with hyperlinks, timestamps on video, so everyone kind of knows the overall vision of how it should look as well with it. So yeah. Okay then, next question. I'll ask this one as well, mate, and keep putting you in the hot seat. This one comes from Dragonfang, and he asks, if you weren't level designers, what kind of job would you be doing?
This is where the imposter syndrome kicks in, and I don't class myself as a level designer because I'm not full time in the industry. So for my day job, I work in cybersecurity for the NHS. So that's what I do for my day job. Would I do that if somebody put a gun to my head and said you have to do that for the rest of your life? For the sake of keeping my job, I'm going to say yes.
Good answer, mate. Good answer. I don't know. No, I think I would have gone. I'd follow my father and do some more programming, and maybe gone into a bit more software engineering sort of things. But I don't know. Maybe a famous actor. That probably would have been an easy one to get. Who knows? It was right there on the door.
With that pretty face, Max, nobody would say no. So.
That's it, right? Super. I would have worked my way up to Calvin Klein model and then transferred into films pretty easily. It's I say it's like it's almost done.
Just move over David Beckham, like.
Yeah, it just need a new face of H&M. That's what we need. Brilliant. Okay, we'll do this as the last question then, mate, for it. So we're going to go with Mark C. And he asks, I'm stumbling with my English. Big projects always lack time. Will it push LD... Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to try to read this one. Oh, okay, right. So if you're lacking time when regarding making your levels, do you feel that you have to stop doing your research and documentation and paper design? And does this affect the quality of the work?
Again, my answer will be very different to Max. So because our studio, everybody works from home and in their own time because everybody's got a day job, we don't really set any hard deadlines on this sort of stuff. We kind of pre-production's done for us when it's done. In the past, we've tried to set deadlines, and we've ended up burning ourselves out because day jobs, life gets in the way. Everybody's married. Some people have got kids. Some people haven't got kids but have other hobbies and other interests. So my answer will be vastly different to Max's here. I don't really know what to say to it, to be honest, because I said, for us, it's done. It's done when it's done.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, though. I think that sometimes you've got a different challenge, like you said. It's not necessarily the deadline, but it's the time itself. Finding the time for the team, I think, is probably a bigger challenge for you then.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like managing time.
Yeah, that's always a tough one. From my perspective, yes, you can skip out on research and documentation, and that has happened to me before, but I will say I noticed the quality of my work has suffered vastly because of this, which only meant that later we had to spend more time coming back and iterating on it, which could have probably been skipped entirely if we'd just been given more time to look at things. I think also there becomes a skill where you just have to stop yourself. I've had some really crazy deadlines before. I've only had example, a day or maybe 2 days to block out a level, which is quite ludicrous in some regards. But but I think it's always important to try to slow yourself down and don't look at that time, because sometimes the hardest thing is looking at a blank screen and being like, oh, where the heck do I start? So always make time. If you can't get like 50 to 100 images, okay, maybe 20 to 30, and then just do some quick paper design sketches, because it's quicker and more efficient than just jumping in, blocking down. So always try and make time for that. Like I said, you may not get the whole amount of planning that you wish, but I do recommend trying your hardest not to skip it, because I do think you will suffer for it later in the long run with it. But I think that is where we're going to wrap up today's episode. Thank you again, mate, for joining me on this one. We'll try and make this a bit more of a regular thing.
Yeah, no problems. Thanks for having me.
No worries, man. How can the people reach you, my friend, if they want to get in contact?
They can reach me on Twitter, at GameDevMark, and it's the same on Instagram as well.
I do love your tag name. I think it's very
I
smart.
feel like it's pretty pretentious.
I like it. It's always funny when you look back at certain things you pick name-wise and you're like, why did I pick that? Yeah, we won't talk about my World of Warcraft names. Edgelord 14-year-olds. Oh god, yeah, let's not go through that. I've been waiting for the feature where I can rechange my name. And if you want to reach out to me, you can do so on Twitter at MaxPairs, or you can email into the podcast, leveldesignlobby@gmail.com. So feel free to send us over questions, because we can answer them the next time that we do this. And we hope you all have an amazing morning, evening, afternoon, day or night, whenever you're listening to this. And we will catch you all next time. See ya.
Bye.